Navigating the commercial real estate sales process can sometimes be pretty daunting. If you're part of a larger company or a firm like JLL or CBRE, then there more than likely is a checklist or some team members to help you along with the process. However, if you're new to commercial real estate, the amount of information can seem a little bit overwhelming. Being able to complete a commercial real estate transaction from start to finish is important in order to protect yourself and your clients. So in this video, we will discuss what the transaction process looks like in 9 steps, ranging from identifying the market all the way to the start of operations. Hey, it's Michael with CRE Made Easy, and if you're new to this channel, we talk about commercial real estate best practices and tips for success. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get the latest videos. We're going to be covering this first part pretty briefly because it doesn't actually pertain to the closing process itself, but it's still important, and I want to make sure that it's not skipped over. So the first stage of really refining your craft is identifying your very specific niche and your market. For example, you can be a multifamily specialist focusing on value add or core plus assets, all within the Austin, Texas MSA. By identifying this for yourself early on, it would allow you to screen through all of your potential clients to identify the clients that will be the best fit for you. Now, believe me, nothing is more frustrating than working with a client who isn't even really comfortable with the commercial space, yet they want to do things their way anyways. So staying within your area of expertise and your business model will relieve a ton of stress, all while making you more profitable in the end. So once you identify your exact niche, the next piece is to screen your clients. You have to know exactly what the client is looking for from their next purchase. Now, it could be a business owner who's looking for a retail space to simply operate their own business out of, or it can be an investor who's doing a 1031 exchange and wants to defer their capital gains tax. And if you aren't out there representing clients, then just replace the word clients with yourself. But regardless, you need to know the exact metrics you want the property to do and what you're looking for. And the last little tip that I would say for the prerequisites would be to line up your financing. Now, it's important to understand how you intend to purchase the property and what type of equity or debt is available for you to bring to the closing table. Now, it's briefly stated, but understand it's extremely important because it'll allow you to be flexible and creative on the negotiation table. Now that you've done all of your prereqs, you've searched and found the ideal property, it's time to start putting together the letter of intent, or LOI. Now, the LOI is a non-binding agreement that should lay out every detail of the offer terms. This gives both parties time to review and negotiate terms before ever going under contract. Now, this process may be as fast as just a few days, or it could take a couple of months depending on the complexity of the offer. But the clearer the LOI is, the more efficient the process will be. Once the LOI is fully executed by all parties, a real estate attorney would generally draft that into a purchase and sales agreement. Now, to be fair, if you're using a real estate broker, or if you have a previous purchase and sales agreement that you have used before, you can simply use that as your baseline contract. However, if the LOI is highly complex, then it's recommended that you get a real estate attorney to draft the PSA to ensure none of the details are missed. Even after the attorney drafts it, it's not uncommon to have a few more revisions made because all parties have to review and agree on the documents. Now, after that purchase and sales agreement is signed, now we have to get to work on the due diligence process. If you've noticed up to this point, I haven't really talked about specific time frames or deliverables, and this is because every contract is going to be different. There are some best practices that can be utilized depending on the transaction type, for example, a lease versus a sale, and on your specific market. But this is where I will say that the delivery of your due diligence items should be as early in the process as possible. And due diligence items includes everything like tax returns, property financials, copy of leases or estoppel certificates, contract service agreements, and the list goes on. And you can imagine as the property grows in size, or the number of tenants get larger and larger, then the longer it may take to review these documents. You also need time to order all the inspections. Now, the buyer themselves, they may have some specific inspections that they want to see, but let's not forget about the lender requirements as well. Now, most lenders will want to see some form of an appraisal. I don't know many that won't, but depending on the asset type, they may actually ask for either property or environmental surveys as well. So you want to make sure that you've built in enough time to complete all of those inspections during your inspection window. After you have extensively reviewed all of these documents and reports is when you're going to start any renegotiation. Now, you may need to reduce the purchase price or ask the seller to pay for any concessions to cover some of those expenses that are outside of your projected performance models. Now, be aware the sellers are typically not required to give any price reduction or seller concessions. So knowing your investment objectives, like mentioned before, become extremely important at this point. Now, my personal recommendation is to wait until you have all of the data in before you start negotiations. And this will include appraisals. However, I understand that appraisals can be delayed and sometimes out of your control. But sellers may or may not extend inspection periods simply because you couldn't coordinate an appraisal sooner. All right, so keep that in mind. If you've made it this far in the process, you're now approaching the finish line. Now that your inspection period is over, whatever earnest money that you may have put down becomes hard or non-refundable, and now it's really just a waiting game as the lender and attorney finalizes the paperwork. What's the paperwork? Well, we got to make sure that the title is actually clear and insured, making any adjustments that may have occurred during the renegotiation process, and finalizing underwriting on the lender side. At this point in the game, there is a high probability that it will close. I mean, it's real estate after all, maybe something might happen, but we've gotten through 90% of the workload. We're probably going to close. So this is the time that you want your property management company fully engaged and preparing to take over. Even if you intend to manage it yourself or have an internal property management company, you want to be prepared to take on all the new tenants, the ownership of the utilities, and finalize your project management improvement plan. After all parties have signed the documents and the deed is recorded with the county, the transaction is officially settled and complete. Now all of that planning and preparation gets to be actioned. Although this is the end of the transaction, so to speak, it's really the beginning of all of the work. Project improvement plans can be something as small as doing light renovations in some of the units, or it can be as complex as rezoning the entire property and adding additional square footage. But either scenario, you still have to have the right team in place with all the proper licensing requirements and credentials, and you have to hold them accountable to complete the projects on schedule and within the given budget. How you manage this is how your investment will perform. If you meet all of your deadlines and exceed your projections, then your return will likely increase. And the exact opposite will happen if there are long delays or cost exceeding those project budgets. Now you should feel familiar with the general flow of a purchase or a lease transaction in commercial real estate. Now just remember, every transaction will be different, and you will have to be comfortable being uncomfortable as you continue to be flexible and open to learning. Now, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like, share it with your friends, go ahead and put it on your social media pages, and leave a comment below, and share with us any videos that you'd like to see on this channel as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.